Hi, everybody. It's Stacy Subble, SALON Today Conversations, and it's Friday, and we wanted to check in with some good friends in Georgia. We've got Jyl and Jason Craven. Hi, guys.
Hi, Stacy. Hi there.
And you just finished your first week back in business, so we want to kind of just take the pulse and see what that was like. Was it what you expected?
Well, that's a hard question to answer because I'm not sure what we expected. We prepared very well, and I think that's really important. But we did kind of a secret soft opening Friday and Saturday of last week, kind of to just do a run through with very little bit of guests. That really helped us a lot. So I feel after the first day, everything just started running smoothly and everybody was comfortable. I think that it was very positive, very well.
So what when you called your employees and told them you were opening back up, what was the reaction? Because we've heard mixed messages from Georgia owners that, you know, some employees are raring to come back and some are a little cautious still.
Yes.
Yeah.
You want to say?
That was the case for us. I know the turnaround was super quick. So what happened, it was a Tuesday afternoon, and about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, our governor came on and essentially said that, you know, our businesses could resume on Friday. So that was between Tuesday and Friday was a very quick turnaround, but almost within a matter of moments, what happened, our phone started to ring. I tell her, like, it lit up like a pinball machine, and she was at home running, I think, and her phone lit up, and it was a mixture of staff and our guests being anxious about coming back to work. So, but prior to that, we'd remained in contact with our team through Zoom calls, and so we stayed in touch with everyone, you know,
several times a week,
a lot. So we felt like we had a pretty good pulse on what most people were feeling. So we were able to at least decide based on the people that were willing to come back, and we felt like we'd have enough business. So, you know, not all of our team was ready to come back, but we felt like we had enough people that were. So we were able to open when we did.
There was a lot during the time that we were out that a lot of our team members, who are also our friends and family, obviously, but I talked to them a lot personally, you know, at night on the phone, and there was a lot of them struggling, you know, emotionally and mentally, ready to come back. You know, they were starting to creep into a hole, you know, it was kind of getting, right. So we really felt like it was important that we did open. You know, we wanted to open the right way, open safely, make sure everything is above and beyond standard, and make sure our guests and our team feel very comfortable and safe coming back to work. I think that was a big part of it that made it easier for everybody to come back, was that they trusted us to make sure that the environment would be safe.
So what kind of, how is business different? What kind of precautions do you have in place?
So yes, that's the first thing that we had to really get a handle on, was what the state was asking us to do.
And state board.
You know, what our state officials and our local officials were requiring of us. So we had to get clear on that. You know, in Georgia, there were guidelines put out by our governor, but then the State Board of Cosmetology essentially has their additional layer of protections that we had to, you know, follow and get clear on. So, so we had to understand what was expected of them first. Once we were
to know which
what specific guidelines. Yeah. My gosh, where do I start? So we had to change our check-in and check-out process. As an example, we were fortunate enough to have 2 storefront doors. So now, before this, there was just a set of double doors. They both acted as an entry and an exit. We changed our entry, you know, where someone would enter the salon now, it's on the opposite end of our building. So that process has changed. Our check-in and check-out process has changed, just so we can eliminate people crossing paths. You know, when someone checks in now at the salon, we take their temperature, we give them a face mask, we give them hand sanitizer, we ask them some questions that are coming from our State Board of Cosmetology.
We also have to make them text when they pull in. So make sure
Right.
that the stylist is ready for them before they come in the salon.
So they wait in the car until the
They wait in the
stylist
car.
is ready?
Yep.
Yes. So right. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no seating. Everything up front's marked off. So.
Right. So yeah, it's mapped out, the salon is, so that we can eliminate people just crossing paths. We're doing, color services in some case at cutting chairs so that we're not changing and altering spaces. So we're just trying to be conscious, once again about, the social distancing and adhering to the distancing guidelines that are out there. We're taking our temperatures when we come in. And there's a list of just cleaning procedures that we're following throughout the day.
We have one person going around cleaning every 15 minutes and making sure door handle, all the handles and everything's wiped down. And we have Clorox wipes everywhere and hand sanitizer everywhere. And we actually put a biodefense system into our HVAC units this past weekend. So it's just an extra layer of protection in the air that kills virus. So that was really a great thing. It was important also for me that the guest still gets an experience. So we try to still, the booking is difficult because we have to do one person at a time and figure out how long it's going to take with their processing time. But I make sure that they still get a nice shampoo and, just so, and they're coming in and the guests are just so thankful and grateful. They're just really willing to do whatever it takes for them to come in and get their hair done.
I mean,
you have a lot of extensions clients, so you probably got a lot of gray hair, a lot of grown out extensions, a lot of
yes,
pretty dire shape right now.
Oh yes.
I mean, at the end of the day, there's no way we could open. I mean, it doesn't really matter what we want. If our team wasn't ready to come back, we couldn't open, and if the guests weren't ready to come in, we couldn't open. So, at the end of the day, it's in some ways it's up to them, and so fortunately we were able to make that decision to reopen and to get clear on what was expected of us to do so.
How are you determining who to give priority to when booking appointments?
Well, we all along we've had one or two front desk people come in for a couple hours and kind of shift slowly. So what we've been doing is just the appointments that were on the book at the time that we closed, we kept pushing them forward first. So those are the ones that are on our book now first. So that's, we haven't really been able to do any guests that aren't currently with the salon. We've had people call and trying to help them, but we're really, considering the way we have to book and that we can only we're doing half stylists one day and then half the next day. That way it's easier than splitting a shift so you can clean the station out and do all that good stuff. So they're not fully on full schedules yet. So it's difficult.
That has been the one challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of challenges, but that's probably the one that would be the biggest, because I know in our cases, when we closed on March the 18th, we did it anticipating that this would be something brief, meaning
2 weeks,
a week, maybe two. And then we found ourselves, rescheduling those people again.
That worked out well for us, I think, though, because it kept those people priority that were the ones that were booked then, to be able to come in.
At least it's a system that people can understand.
Right. Right. When they call us.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So
that was definitely the challenge. We were concerned day one, we all were anxious and, we knew we had everything together, but I think the biggest advice for people out there is just get through your first day. Because once you do, it's like, okay, that's not so bad. I mean, the mask is a little cumbersome. I have to go up and pull it down and take a deep breath every once in a while, but you get used to it. You feel funny at first wearing it, but.
Are you wearing gloves too?
I wear gloves for color services and for shampooing they are, but not during hair cutting. It's too difficult for me to use. Yeah. That's suggested. It's not mandatory. So by then our hands have been washed 8 million times before we even touch their hair again. So
right.
I feel like it's very clean.
What about blow drying? And that's things that people are questioning whether they should be doing or not.
We're still blow drying. I feel like I feel it's okay. We also did that biodefense system in, so it actually it's attacking any germ that's in the air right when it reaches it. So that makes me feel a little more comfortable too. I know there's so many back and forth whether that's, but I felt like if it was really something that shouldn't be done, they would have made it mandatory not to do. So I give my guests the choice, but 9.5 out of 10 people still want their hair styled out.
So what do you think is going to happen a couple of weeks down the road when everybody's gotten in back for their first appointment? Do you think there will be a peak and then a lull, or do you think it'll be back to normal? Or
I don't see a lull happening because I don't know how we're going to get all of our clients done in a couple of weeks.
A lull
Yeah.
in the business. Yes. Yeah, no, we still, looking out and ahead. I mean, fortunately, you know, we're still pretty busy, even looking out over the next couple of weeks. Just because, as Jyl mentioned, how we're having to schedule right now, and that's how we're scheduling. I would say in our situation, out for the next month, meaning we're only scheduling one person at a time. We're not scheduling in, you know, someone may have 2 or 3 people at one time in some cases, and so we're trying to avoid those situations. And so just by the sheer nature of how we're scheduling,
We're staying pretty busy.
it's keeping people busy, and some people are used to moving really fast.
That's been difficult for me.
But it's just, it's where we're at. And so in order for us to be open, that's how we have to operate, meaning one person at a time.
Now,
So,
you know, if things change, hopefully, God willing, you know, in a couple of weeks and we can adjust our schedules to be better, then we will, you know, but who knows? You know, it's kind of crazy right now. So
did you have enough space between your stations? Or are you having to alternate stations, or?
every other station.
Every other
right.
station.
So we have, so they're 10 feet apart. Now the stylists are working, it's 10 feet apart. And one of the things that I found ourselves doing over the course of actually this week is walking our salon. And what I mean by that is we actually have found that there's an area that's not really being used just because of how our space is laid out, that we can actually set up a station that is pretty far away from everyone else. So if we find that we're having to maybe do an extra person or get someone in whatever unique circumstance, we're able to do that. So we just made a haircutting location, essentially, is what we did, out of some space that's not being utilized. So
Also, our service providers are full service providers. We don't do, you know, just one or the other. So we have a whole color area with 12 color chairs. So if necessary, if we needed that, we could use that as well, because we don't really need to use, if you're one guest at a time, you can do your whole service right at the station that you're working with.
Right. You were one of our salons of the year last year, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's that time of year right now. So I'm writing the stories about the salons of the year, and I'm looking at all these communal areas, you know, the communal processing table and the color bar where people sit at, and I'm thinking, how is that impacting? Do you have a color bar?
We have our color area though is not we have a row with 8 color chairs. So that was easy to put every other chair.
Okay.
And then we have 2 sides that have 2 on each side, but not facing each other. So they're only 2 on, you know, so it's not like the communal ones where they're.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering how that's going to impact long-term salon design. People are going to rethink that as they're building out.
I think it's going to really depend on the next few months on what this really, like, is this going to disappear and then be gone? And then things, you know, I know that we all have short-term memories, and 6 months from now, people will be cruising and not even thinking about it. But, you know, so I just don't know, you know, unless we.
Yeah, to rethink your space layout, I don't know. I'm not sure. I think we're all just kind of waiting to see what happens.
Yeah.
Every single day.
We're all waiting, you know, and it seems like every time you turn on the news, there's a different opinion. You know, someone will talk about another wave in the fall, and then someone else will be like, it's, you know.
It drives you kind of crazy.
Yeah,
it's like, what
crazy.
is happening? What is really happening? Like, I want to go to that one person that really knows what's happening. I feel bad for like the salons in different states that can't open right now. I mean, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's so tough. My heart goes out to everybody. I mean, it's tough.
So for people that are facing reopening in the coming weeks, what advice would you give? I mean, you've offered some great advice already, but kind of to encapsulate it, what tips would you give them?
Being prepared. I mean, preparing now, preparing yesterday, pretending like it's tomorrow, you know.
Yeah. I would probably start with find out what's expected, you know, of you to open. We're kind of revisiting what your state and local officials are asking, right? What are those necessary guidelines you must follow, you know, in order to open and to be compliant and to be safe. So just get really clear on what those are. And, to the extent you can have other people on your team read through those guidelines as well. If you have any of the leaders or managers, read through it, because, in some cases, there's a lot of information. And so you can miss something that's important. And then, start stocking up on your cleaning supplies. I'm sure most everybody, out there has already been doing that, but you cannot have, I don't think, enough Clorox wipes and disposable masks and capes and gloves and
was there
towels.
anything you had a hard time resourcing?
Fortunately, we had been gathering. We did with the thermometers. We had to do the forehead thermometers until we got the ones that are completely touchless. We would just wipe it down with alcohol, but now we have the touchless ones in. But I think also on the personal side of it, if people are not connected with their teams a lot, I would start like right now, just that way, when this happened, I pretty much I could tell you who was going to be like, I'm in yesterday, I'm coming, I need to work. And then the few that we were lucky, most of them wanted to come in. But I knew, because we've been really connecting and talking, but also telling them all the things we're doing. Even when we did that system that we put in for the biodefense, we had the actual gentleman that was helping us with the install come on one of our Zooms and talk to the staff and tell them everything about it in case they had any questions we couldn't answer. And we were doing Wellness Wednesdays and having special guests that were just kind of lifting them in a spiritual, way to keep them grounded and comfortable and feeling like they trust us and safe, so that's a big part of it.
Yeah. And, maybe try to find out, who would be willing or who's interested in coming back to work. Like Jyl was saying, just try to get a good pulse and read on your team, have conversations with them, call them, talk to them, see where their head's at, see what they're wanting to do. You might be surprised. They might be wanting to work 6 days a week. But the flip side to that is see how flexible they are. You're scheduling, and we mentioned scheduling was one of our challenges. A lot of people were willing to be flexible with their schedules, which allowed us to be able to get their guests in. So, find out who's willing to work, find out, how flexible they can be with their schedules. And that will go a long way as far as, planning you for, or helping you with that reopening. So
I'm sure you've got a lot of working moms in there too. And there's probably some challenges with, you can't, there's no childcare out there either.
Yeah. One of the benefits that we have, or that they have, is that their husbands are home working too. So so that's kind of been helpful. And some of them have older siblings, so they're able to work it out.
Yeah.
But it's good because we can make flexible hours as well. So even if they had to do it like come after where they're homeschooling, until after that, and then they start work, we can do that. So that's very helpful too.
So one of the other questions we get from a lot of owners is about pricing. Or did you look at the costs that you're going to be absorbing for the additional protective equipment? Are you doing an additional surcharge? Did you up your prices to accommodate that? Or
no, we didn't. It's a cost in our position, in our eyes. It's a cost of doing business. I guess
if we had to, we would have, but fortunately, thankfully, we don't have to right now. So good. Yeah.
Good.
It's an incurred cost that's hopefully temporary.
Yes.
And we're just excited that our guests are coming in, and we're able to take care of them right now. And we'll, fortunately at this point, we're able to just continue charging what we've always charged. So.
Any interesting stories from your guests as far as taking color or cutting into their own hands and with some interesting results? Or?
Well, I just had a 5-hour color correction. I already knew about it because she messaged me on Instagram a few weeks ago, and her hair was I don't know, turquoise on her ends. And she's of Asian descent, so she's got black hair, and it's been years of me trying to get her. She's got hair down to her butt, getting the balayage to be that really icy blonde. And she sends me that picture. I was like, oh my God. And she goes, I didn't want I didn't want to bleach it. So I saw online where when I wanted to get it out, I could use baking powder and detergent. So then her roots were like red and then green when she came in today. I was like, oh, but it worked out.
Yeah. So she had texted you in mid-April, I think it was.
Yeah.
And this is what I tried. And I remember like
I showed Jason. I was like,
your heart sunk, and I thought that's a project when we get back.
Wow, that's painful.
Yeah. I can tell you though, all the messages I've been posting some on Facebook and stuff that I've been receiving from my guests and other people's guests in the salons, thanking us so much for reopening, and that they were in such a bad space, and after they came in, it just really turned them around, and so it makes you feel really good.
Yeah, it does. I mean, at the end of the day, people are excited that you're here. And they're going to be excited whenever that day comes. I know there's a lot of anxiety. I know we had all the same emotions. We were concerned. We were, is it the right decision? Is it not the right decision? But in our case, whether we made that decision to open, this past Monday when we did, or whether it was Monday, a week from now, the day was going to come. And so, we were pretty clear on what we needed to do, but, we were still nervous, but the people that came in, our guests were very thankful that we were here. So, and that has been the continued, I feel like, response from the people that have showed up. So
we were really torn in the beginning, like when they first announced it, because then I started seeing people posting like, oh my gosh, you're going to kill people. And there's people protesting saying haircuts kill and all this crazy stuff. And I'm like, gosh, I don't know what we should do. I didn't feel like that. I felt like we can create a really safe environment, but at the end of the day, we just felt, we went with what we felt like, our gut. We were like, no, this is the right thing. Talking to our staff, taking their temperatures, and just, they needed to come back. So we just made the decision and ran with it and didn't look back.
Well, it seems like you've been very conscientious about getting ready and putting the time into supporting it. And how uplifting is it to your team that the guests are coming in and really, it's just proving the value of what they do right now.
Yes, 100%. And they're feeling it. They are feeling it.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's a positive to come out of all of this.
I think there's a lot of positives that came out of it. There's obviously a lot of negatives, but that was yesterday, and now we have to just look forward. And I think that there is a lot of positives. I think you appreciate a lot of things a lot more. We went out to dinner last night for the first time in 6 weeks. And
our kids were as excited as we were. They couldn't believe it again.
They text me, they're like, we are going crazy. Can you please take us to dinner now that there's restaurants open? It was the best meal I've had in I felt like in 10 years. It was amazing. But
well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experience, because you all in Georgia, you guys are kind of the first to go back. So it's kind of, everybody's watching to see what that looks like. So thanks for sharing that experience with us.
Good. I encourage people to do it. Do it right, but do it.
Do it right. Follow protocols, and if your team's on board and your guests are willing to come in, then
do it.
Think about it. At least consider it. In our case, it's been, thus far, it's been
very positive.
It's been good. So.
Yeah. Thanks, Jyl. Thanks, Jason.
Of course. Thank
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Jason.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.